This is a story called The Little Monsters, Chapter 44. The kids visit the National Holocaust Museum. Mrs. Applejack is teaching the kids history. At the moment, she's teaching them all about the Second World War and the Holocaust. The gang all love history and they're all fascinated by what Mrs. Applejack's teaching them. Then she announced that she'd organised a trip to the Beth Shalom National Holocaust Centre in Newark, and the gang and some of the other kids are very excited. Everyone was given a letter to take home to their parents, letting them know about the trip. They had to sign the letter to give permission for their kids to go. Of course, a few of the kids didn't want to go, but their parents made them because they knew that it was a very important part of their education. Kicker already knew a bit about the Holocaust because both her and her family are Jewish, and her great-grandparents were Holocaust survivors. They were just little kids when they were taken away. Both of their families were murdered in Auschwitz, but along with a load of others they were rescued at the end of the war, and all of them were severely malnourished. It was hard for them to talk about it, but when Kicker told them that they were learning about it at school, they were more than happy to tell her and the gang all about their experience. When they went to school and told Mrs. Applejack, she told them that the Holocaust Centre were holding a creative writing competition for everyone who wanted to enter. She told Kicker that she should enter on her own or with the rest of the gang. She told her that she didn't know yet. The gang were really excited about the trip, even though they had to be at school for 7:30 a.m. The coach driver was Mr. Applejack, and when he saw the gang he said, "Oh no, not you lot again." Then they all laughed and he gave them permission to get on and put their joke stuff on the seats. Of course Mrs. Applejack knew because she was there talking to him. Because it was a long trip, Mrs. Applejack took loads of snacks and drinks for the kids to have on the way there, and each of them were told to bring a packed lunch, and they did. The gang put whoopee cushions on the other kids' seats. When they sat on them they all laughed when they deflated, making a farting noise. On the journey there, when everyone left their seats to use the toilet or to get a drink and a snack off Mrs. Applejack, the gang pinched their bums. When they arrived at the Holocaust Centre, Mrs. Applejack decided to let the other kids get their own back on the Little Monsters. She got each member of the gang to get off the coach with someone who wasn't a member of the gang. As they did so, the non-gang members pinched their bums, flicked their ears, kicked the back of their heels and pulled their hair, and everyone laughed. Then Mrs. Applejack told the gang to leave all their joke stuff on the course because it wasn't appropriate to play pranks on people in the Holocaust Centre. Of course they did, and then everyone went inside. When they got inside, they went into the hall and listened to a couple of Holocaust survivors talk about their experience. After they'd finished, they went and ate their lunch. After lunch, they went and looked around and listened to talks from the centre staff and watched videos recorded during the Holocaust. Then they went back to listen to a few more survivors give their talks about their time in the different Holocaust camps. They stayed there for a couple of hours and they watched footage and looked at pictures of different camps. Then it was 4 p.m. and Mrs. Applejack and her husband took the kids for some tea. There was no rush because they weren't due back until the following day, and they were staying at the hotel next door. After everyone had finished their tea, they went back to the auditorium and listened to a couple of more people tell their stories of their experience in the camps. When they finished, the kids were allowed to ask questions. When Kika stood up to ask her question, she also spoke briefly about her great-grandparents and their experience of being in the camps. Then, to her surprise, her great-grandma came on stage and told her story, followed by her great-granddad. Then everyone went back to the hotel, including Kika's great-grandparents. The following day, they went back to the Holocaust Centre. They went back into the auditorium to listen to some more talks. After a couple of hours, it was their lunchtime. After lunch, they went back to the auditorium and listened to some more talks. Then they all went round the part of the centre that they hadn't been in yet. Some of the kids got upset by what they were seeing, so Mrs. Applejack took them to the cafe to calm them down. Then everyone went back to the auditorium to listen to some more talks. Then they went to the cafe for snacks. When they'd all finished their snacks, they went outside and picked up a stone in memory of everyone that was murdered during the Holocaust. Then they went into the souvenir shop and bought some souvenirs to take home with them. Kika and the gang decided that they wanted to write their own individual story about the Holocaust. Kika wrote about her great-grandparents and their experience of their time in Auschwitz with their permission. The next day, everyone handed their stories in to Mrs. Applejack, and she sent them off to the Holocaust Centre. About a week later, Kika received the exciting news that she'd won first prize, and she'd been invited to go back to the Holocaust Centre to receive her award. The centre arranged for her and her family and the other winners to stay at the hotel next door. She received a trophy, a certificate and a £100 shopping voucher. They also gave her the story back that she'd written. Her parents were incredibly proud of her and so was the school. One day during assembly, Mrs. Tinker called out her name and asked her to go to the front of the assembly hall. When she did, she was presented with another award for her story, and she received a framed picture of herself receiving her award at the Holocaust Centre, which took pride of place on her parents' sideboard in their living room. End of chapter 44. Thanks for watching, guys.